everybody. This is the Threatpost talk show. We're going to talk about cybersecurity issues. I'm joined today by Nate Cardozo. He is a staff attorney with the Electronic Frontier Foundation. And Nate, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do for EFF and what your area of expertise is.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Tom. So I'm Nate Cardozo. I work for the Electronic Frontier Foundation here in San Francisco. We're a civil liberties nonprofit dedicated to defending free speech, privacy, and innovation in the digital world. I'm a lawyer. I've been with EFF for about 7 years, and I focus on cybersecurity, encryption, and free speech litigation.
Well, thank you very much. I think encryption is a really, really important topic today, especially here in the United States, where we have a new administration that is taking a new approach towards encryption, and the encryption debate just keeps on moving forward, and things seem to be shifting a lot, and it's a confusing topic. Can you give us a little bit of insight in terms of where the United States government is today when it comes to their stance on encryption, and sort of narrow it down in terms of defining like how this type of encryption, what type of encryption are we talking about here in terms of, you know, encrypting your smartphone, encrypting your data, and maybe you could outline a little bit about the encryption landscape for us here in the U.S.
Absolutely. Do you want me to hold it?
Yes.
Encryption in the United States is perfectly legal today. You're allowed to have end-to-end encrypted communications. You're allowed to have full disk encrypted devices like this, and that's something that Jeff Sessions and Christopher Wray at the FBI want to change. They don't exactly know how they want to change it, though. They refer to something called going dark. Who here has heard of going dark? Anybody? All right. One hand. The rest of you are virgins. Going dark is what the FBI refers to when they say that they can't access our communications the way they used to. It's a little bit disingenuous. FBI has been using the term since 1997, and a lot of stuff has happened in the last 20-something years, as you might imagine. But right now, FBI is looking at two different things that they want to change. They want a universal backdoor into this, right, into the phones that we carry in our pockets. And they want that to be mandated by law. Last Congress, our senator here from California, Dianne Feinstein, along with Senator Richard Burr from North Carolina, introduced a bill that would have outlawed full disk encryption on mobile devices. It wasn't drafted very well, and it probably also would have outlawed general purpose computers sort of full stop, but we're looking at they may be reintroducing this kind of bill in this Congress. The other thing which they're doing is the FBI really is learning from its mistakes the last time around. In the late 1990s, there was something called the Clipper chip, which FBI and NSA tried to mandate in all of our telephones that would have provided end-to-end encryption with an FBI backdoor. It fell apart after the security of the Clipper chip was picked apart by academics. So this time around, they're not going to mandate any one particular technology. What they're going to say is they're going to leave it up to the devices, right? The old saying, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic, I think applies here. To politicians on Capitol Hill, this thing is magic. They don't have any idea how it works. They don't know how full disk encryption is a thing. And so what they're saying is, you nerds over in Cupertino, over in Mountain View, nerd harder and figure out a way of making it both secure and insecure at the same time. I would suggest that doesn't exist.
Well, yeah. I mean, you can't have a backdoor and have security at the same time. You can't have your cake and eat it too. So I mean, so we've seen this play out. We've seen this play out in San Bernardino with the government trying to get into iPhones and trying to force Apple into helping them and assist them get into those backdoors. Now it seems that, you know, if I'm reading the headlines correctly, there are new tools that the law enforcement is using that might that might make this discussion moot, at least for now. I mean, can you talk a little bit about some of the tactics that were used and why they were used in the San Bernardino case, and bring us up to speed with where we are at today in terms of law enforcement being able to bypass or crack encryption on our mobile devices?
Yeah, so in San Bernardino in early 2016, Apple and the FBI really got into it in court. And what the FBI said is they had no way of accessing a cell phone left behind by the terrorists, the shooters in San Bernardino. They testified under oath in Congress. They submitted affidavits under oath in court saying that the FBI knew of no possible way that they could break into the iPhone. The Inspector General of the Department of Justice just this month released a report calling that poppycock. The FBI knew of a way of breaking into the phone, but a middle manager at FBI decided to hide that information from FBI leadership. And so when Jim Comey stood there in front of Congress and said there was no way of getting into the phone, FBI knew that wasn't true, but Jim Comey didn't know it wasn't true. So where are we now? FBI paid for an exploit to get into the San Bernardino iPhone, and of course they found nothing on it, as we later determined. But there are two companies right now. One is called GreyShift, releases a product called GreyKey, and the other is an Israeli company called Celebrate. Both of those companies claim the ability to get into any iPhone or Android device currently on the market. So when you hear someone like Christopher Wray, director of the FBI, stand up in front of Congress and say he has 7,800 iPhones in active criminal investigations that he can get into, just remember all that means is he's not willing to plug it in to a $15,000 device, which we know that the Department of Justice has already bought. So that's where we are today. We're generally safe-ish from each other. We're certainly not safe from the government, and the DOJ wants to make that status quo permanent by law.
Well, I mean, that's this is a very complicated issue. Thank you so much for simplifying it. But before I let you go, I mean, where are we going? I mean, can you take us a little bit into the future, 5 years from now, in terms of where you see the debate going, where the technical capabilities of the government may be, or where encryption may be, to where your Galaxies and your iPhones and your G4s or whatever are locked up tight?
Sure. Honestly, I think the U.S. isn't going to lead here. I think the U.S. is going to follow the lead of Australia, the United Kingdom, even Russia and China here. Congress is real good at getting absolutely nothing done, unlike our partners around the world. In both the UK and Australia, there are bills in front of Parliament that would actually ban end-to-end encryption. Russia and China have already done it. Russia just blocks Telegram, which is the most popular messenger in that country. And where we're going to go? Honestly, I don't know. There's one truth, though, which is that the crypto cat is out of the bag, if you will. Encryption is here to stay, and the folks who need encryption will always be able to get it, be those good guys or bad guys, right? All you got to do is go into your local university library and look up the RSA algorithm. This conference is named after the three guys who invented public key infrastructure. That's not going away, and there's no backdoor.
Well, listen, thank you for all the great work that you do at the EFF. I'm a huge, huge fan and supporter, and thank you for coming down and talking with Threatpost today, and have a great show.
Thanks, you too.